Welcome to Lofty Pursuits and Public Displays of Confection in Tallahassee, Florida, where we make hard candy. Right here. This is Greg, and this is part 4 of the Dreams of Tangerine, the Tangerine Dream series, trying to recreate, well, the memory of Tangerine Sours, which were a popular candy until 2010 when they were discontinued. And we've been doing this with your help because I've never actually tried the candy, and we're getting pretty close from our beta tasters getting their feedback. So you ask, what happens next? Next, we need to make more candy because I've run out of prototype candy. And we do this by heating the sugar to 310 degrees. And as soon as it's hot, we add pure tangerine oil. And yes, we can get tangerine oil. And we add food coloring, and we pour it on our candy cooling table. This table's in excess of 100 years old. We have a video just on that. And we end up letting the candy cool down, and when it starts cooling down and gets below the point that the acid will burn, we add citric acid to the inside. As we learned last time, we get a little sour on the inside, but it's sour fruit, not sour of, oh my God, that goes on the outside. And we end up letting it cool just a bit, and the parts that touch the table get colder than the parts that are on the top that are still liquid. So we fold the candy together to even out the temperature. And when the temperature evens, we put it on our candy heating table. Now we call it cooling and heating, and these are a bit of misnomers. People think the table is cold. The table is actually just very room temperature, and has a water circulation system to keep it at room temperature or not to heat up. But if candy is solid at room temperature, we don't have to get it any cooler than that. And the candy heating table doesn't really heat the candy. It keeps the candy from cooling down too fast, so we have longer time to work with. We don't actually want the temperature to go up, because if it goes up, it has a good chance of crystallizing and ruining the rest of the batch. So we keep the candy on the candy cooling table, and we cut off hunks of it. The hunks of it we pull off to the cool side, and we let cool down for a bit. And when it's at the right temperature, we bring it over to our fruit drop roller, in this case having raspberry drop roller molds in it, because we think that's the right shape for what we're doing. We like the surface area, and if you look at the old pictures, it's sort of a similar shape. We thought it was the same shape, just smaller, but I think it had bands around it so it looked like stripes or segments of a citrus. But it's hard to tell from the old photographs. I mean, it's been 11 years since they made it. So we're going to put it through the press, and when it's pressed out the other side, the rollers have cooled off the candy, and it will hold its image, and we'll let it cool down the rest of the way. And we repeat this with the rest of the candy, again and again, and it's pretty cool. But once the candy cools down, we can break it into pieces. It was suggested by some of you that we should make the candy smaller because the old ones were smaller and maybe that would give a cool effect. Well, one of our problems is we've been looking around at our candy rollers. We have nothing of a similar shape. We only have a few that are much smaller, and the smaller ones that are about the diameter of the original ones are delicate shapes. I don't know if they're going to make it through the tumbler, but we're going to see. Our candy is handmade, so not everything is the same diameter. It's the nature of how we make the candy. The automated process that they used for the originals makes a much more even piece, and our roller is a bit bigger, but a similar texture, which we're learning how important it is because it holds the acid on better. But if we take a look here, you can see that our pieces are roughly something on the order of magnitude of 1.5 centimeters in diameter. Now, we're going to do an experiment, and we're going to see how big the originals were. So I bought this old can for a reason. It was to allow us to do a comparison of size. So from this can, with a ruler in front of it, we're going to be able to figure out the diameter of the candy. And the diameter of the candy is about 3/8 of an inch, maybe 1 centimeter. So we're about 1/3 less in diameter. So last week we got the breaker bars to work with rubber breaker bars that didn't hold on well. So I had fabricated these metal ones in here. Now these things are, well, deeper than I think we need. And I made them deeper because it's much easier to cut bits off metal than to add them back in. So we're going to experiment and see if this works. And it's also on one side. I have this theory that one side is going to be enough to make this tumble well enough. We don't have a lot of storage space around here, so that's actually part of this design. The fact that one fits neatly over the other. So this week I got a call back from the engineer from Jelly Bellies who's in charge of these panning machines of theirs. And he gave me some good advice about the breaker bars. Apparently theirs aren't separate bars. They actually have dents in the metal here. But what's confusing me is they don't use the breaker bars for everything. They only use it for some stuff. So when they're doing the layers on the jelly beans, they don't use the breaker bars. They don't use them until the final coating that puts the polish on them. And we're only putting the final polish on this candy. So he wasn't surprised at all that I needed them. He says his are quite big, but his machines, like I said, I saw once, and they look to me more like satellite dishes than candy equipment, and because of that, I'm not quite sure if my bars can be scaled to his. So we're going to do this just by sheer experiment. I've been making lots of test batches, and this is sort of throwaway candy, but let's see how it tumbles. And there it goes. It seems to be tumbling half to half. The two halves don't seem to be mixing. The two halves don't seem to be mixing, so I think my bars are too big. But he did tell me that the bigger the batch, the bigger the bars, because the candy fills up more. But if you'll notice, even though I only have the bars over half of it, it's tumbling it perfectly. I have some more sample candy, so I'm just going to dump this in and see what a larger batch looks like. So I now have a pile that's bigger than the breaker bar. So let's see how that works. There's enough to go over and make it alternate. That's perfect. So last week we had a competition, a vote to decide which label we were using. To go back, we had a label art contest, and we were expecting 3, 4, 5 entries. Instead, we got over 60. The staff and I narrowed it down to our 12 favorites, and we put those up for a vote. And the vote was from you. We put it up for about a week, and once again, we underestimated what would happen. You know, what did we expect? 600 votes, 1,000 votes? We broke 15,000 votes, folks. And 26% of you chose the winner, Ariane's Candy. This design is going to have me on it, and I got to say, this thing made me laugh. I made the mistake of opening up the email that contained this artwork while drinking a cup of coffee, and I norked the coffee, guys. This thing made me laugh out loud. I think it's the bug eyes that do it for me. Second place was Vincent's art, this, and everything else came far behind. It was 26 and 23%, I think, were the final percentages of the two. And you've asked us if we could cycle through the different designs, and the answer is, after the first run, maybe. Right now, for the first run, we've decided to use this one for consistency and so that you know what you're getting, and because it makes me laugh. And it looks so good. I mean, come on. Such a handsome guy, isn't it? But we didn't stop there. We thought all these designs, all the finalist designs are so good that we decided to make a sample can of each design, all 12 of them, and anyone who got in the final 12 are going to get tins of the final sour candy in the tins that they designed. And these things will go out in a while now, so guys, don't expect this to happen instantly because we haven't actually made the final candy. So when the candy starts shipping, yours will be among the first of it, and we're going to need to get up with you. You'll be getting emails when I have some time, but I need to get your shipping addresses so I can get you these tins of your artwork back to you with candy in it. So the question is, what's next? And what's next is pretty simple. We've made some more candy, and this candy is now, I think, pretty good, pretty close to what the inside of the candy's like. We can tumble it to get acid on the outside, and that's what we're going to do later and tomorrow. And we should have more samples to put out to our beta tasters. And we're going to hear back what they say. I'm kind of excited about this because it's coming along really nicely. We're going to make some candy, I think at a smaller size, to see how badly the tumbler destroys it. Because those things have ridges that go all the way through. They break in shipping, so I can only imagine what happens if they get tumbled. But we'll try that firsthand. Thank you for watching. We do appreciate it. If you like this video and you want to see others, check our archive of videos. We have over 150 of them. And also subscribe to us here on YouTube and you'll find out how this project is going. Ring the bell and you'll get notifications and you won't miss anything. This candy isn't shipping yet, but if you want to find out when the candy ships, subscribe to our email list on our website, www.pd.net. You can also find our candy there if you want to try it now. We still are at least 3 to 6 weeks out before shipping because we haven't actually made the final product and the cans still haven't come in, so we can't actually make them yet and package them, but they'll be coming out soon and we'd love for you to be one of the first to try them. We want to thank all of our Patreon subscribers because these weird projects that we do are funded by their very nice support. And we want to thank our podcast people who've been testing the candy for us, our beta tasters. And more will be going out to you soon. So thank you for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we'll see you in the next video.